All right, in this lecture, we're gonna test our database. We're gonna test our connection to the database that we just created. All right, and then later on, we're gonna look at the some SQL syntaxes and functions. Right. So let's just go right into it. All right. Now we created this. Right now we don't have any information there, right? Because when I click on browse, I see nothing, right? But that's not a problem though. We just have to establish a connection to the database. If you were following this lecture, we stopped. This is where we stopped before the exercise. We stopped here, right? We stopped at exceptions, right? In our OOP, right? What I want us to do is there is first of all, let me just show you the manual way of connecting to a database. All right, you're gonna need to use a function called MySQL and MySQLi underscore connect. All right, now this is a PHP function, right, that you're gonna be using to connect to your database. All right, and this function takes 4 parameters. All right, and the parameters have to be in a form of a string or something, right? So the first parameter you're gonna need is the name of the server, all right? And mostly you're gonna have it as local host with no space, local host, all right? Because if we come to our server here, all right, we can see the name of the server is localhost, all right, or 127.0.0.1. Either ways it's going to work. All right, so you can either use the name or the IP. All right, but if you are connecting to a database that is on the same host, right, like now we are on the same host, then you can simply go with localhost. All right, and this applies to I mean the host, your online hosting also, right? But if you're connecting to a different host like a remote database, all right, then you probably have to use the IP address of your of the remote host. All right, all hosting all your hosts will be assigned an IP address. All right, the next thing you need is uh, the username. All right, username of the server, all right, of the database server, right? And mostly in this case you're gonna need to put the name of the host. Now if you did not set a username like what we're doing here now, we've not set any username, but in the live server you probably need to set a username. All right, so here the username is going to be root. All right, let me see if I can find it for you here. Usually you're gonna see it somewhere. All right, here you are connected as root. See that, with no password. All right, with no password. So root is our username and we don't have any password yet. All right, great. So and you can see it here, the username is root. All right, at localhost, that is the server name. All right, so we're gonna go and say root will be our username, and then we're gonna need a password. All right, you're gonna need a password to connect to your database. All right, and usually the password, if you did not set a password, as you saw we did not set a password, our password is going to be nothing, right? Nothing in the password, right? And then we got the last one will be the name of the database, which is this one. All right, the course app, that's the name of the database. All right, so the name of the database, we're gonna put the course app in there. So basically you need 4 things, right? This function takes in 4 parameters, right? And then this will be name of database, right? And that will be course, right? Course app, course underscore app, or the whichever name you used. All right, whichever name you used. All right, so what you do is you open up, you can create variables. All right, this is what a lot of people do. All right, they will create a variable here, and call it server, right? And then this will be username. I think I already got it here. Let me just attach the $sign on it, and then we have this is the username, all right, and then this is the password, all right, and then this is the database, right? So basically we've collected, this has got to be in a quote because it's a string, and so will this be in the code because it's a string. All right, so basically we have collected our database information, right, as you can see, and we've kept them in variables, right? So all we have to do is pass in the variables down here, right, inside this how do you call it, formula, inside this function, right? So we just go server comma, right, because we're gonna need another one, we're gonna need a name, comma, right, then followed by the password, all right, and then comma, then the database name, all right, like so, right? You could also go ahead and then type these in, right? You could just say localhost comma root comma password nothing customer app, right? You could also do this. So with this we have we have connected, actually basically we have connected to the database. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a variable, all right, and call it connection, all right, connection, because you want to test it and see if it works, right? And below here you can simply write a function, right? You can just write a statement and say if connection, right? That means if this connection got a response, right, from this function, right? If it got a response from this function, then echo, right, echo database, it's got to be in a string, database connection was successful, right? Something like this, database connection was successful. Else, the else is when you pass in your error, right? You can say something like echo, right, connection not successful, right, something like connection not successful. And then what people usually do is they concatenate this with a function, all right, that gets the error message, all right. So this will be something like say this is another function called MySQL, all right, underscore error, all right. This is a function that basically gets the error. It's just like the get method inside this exception, all right. So it takes a parameter of the connection, all right. It takes a parameter of the connection, so you're going to pass in the parameter here, then you're going to close this and say die. Is also a function, all right, that closes the connection, all right, that closes this MySQL connection, all right. So you're going to say die, and you're going to pass in, it takes a parameter also, so you're going to pass in the parameter, the connection, right? And when you save this and we go back to our database, our web, we're supposed to get, oh, we're getting an error on line 150. Let's see what's the problem. Connection, that is right. All right, we forgot our semicolon here, right? You need to put your semicolon there, right? So now when I go back here, I see database connection was successful. Some error, okay, we're still getting this error message here, right? So let's just take this out. We're still getting this exception here, right? Alright, so we get database connection was successful. This means we have successfully connected to a database. Now this is the procedural way of connecting to a database, which is basically not that secure, right? We're gonna use Pillow to really build a very cool secure connection to a database. Alright, now if I should make a mistake here, right, just take out the U, alright, out of the name. So this name is basically not wrong, right? I mean not correct, right? It's wrong. So if we go back to the database, we are supposed to see an error, all right, from this connection, because there's an error here, right? So this is it, we're getting the error now. This is coming from my SQLi. All right, now the connection says I mean, it says the connection is not successful, and then we're getting the reason from line 50 that says that the database name course app is not is unknown, right? So that is the reason, right? So if we can, if we put this back, we put the u back, now everything is correct, and then we go here, we see the message that says we have successfully connected to a database. So this is how to connect to a database. All right, now what I want us to do is let's challenge ourselves a bit, all right, and try to use the try and catch. All right, let's try to use the try and catch method to see if we can do something with it. All right, because if you're following the lecture, this is basically where we stopped. All right, from before the exercise, this is where we stopped, right? So let's try and do this. All right, so what we can do is we're gonna try to connect to a database. We already have a function that is gonna do that for us here. All right, and so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in here. All right, so we are connected to a database. All right, here we're not gonna throw in an exception because we want to rather check if, so we want to check if this connection was successful, right? So I will just bring the if, statement. All right, here, from here I will just bring the if statement over here. So basically what this will do, right, what this would do is I'm going to comment this out so we don't get a conflict, right? So we have created our variables, right, for our connection, right? And we say try and connect. All right, so we call the function called connect, MySQL connect. We say try and connect to the database, use the data, the value inside these variables which we specified here, right? And then we say if the connection was successful, then echo database connection was successful. All right, and then we say else, right? So this is like an else here, right? We say catch. So it's here we're not passing in an else statement, right? Because here we're using the try and catch method, right? So we say catch exception. All right, we call the name of the class called exception. We pass in our object name. All right, this is the object name we want to use, and then we are echoing the error message, right, that was caught by this method, right, which is inside this class. All right, so let's see what happens if we save this. Hope we don't get an error. Right, so we're getting database connection successful. See that? We're getting it. Now let's try and remove a u here, right? And then we save this, and then we come back to the browser. Now this is it. We get a very simple, nice error, right? This error is more cleaner, right? It's more clean, I should say. It's more clean than the previous one. This is a very clean error. It tells you straight away, listen, this function tried to work, but there is an unknown database on line 166. All right, so I think this one is working perfectly. All right, this try and catch method. So this is basically a live demonstration or a practical demonstration of how you can use the try and catch to establish your connections to a database. All right, and we have to jump into syntax. I don't know if we have much time here. Let's just do it once and for all. Okay, what I will do, I'll pause the video and just go to pull out where we can learn from, right? All right, so I just came straight away all the way to my SQL in W3 schools. All right, and let me just show you something here. SQL, because I don't want you to be wandering around. SQL is basically, it's not a database. SQL is not a database. All right, SQL is a standard for accessing databases. All right, And if you know a little bit about SQL, then you can work with these databases. All right, this is my SQL. This is the one we're using here. All right, this is my SQL. All right, and then we have SQL Server. This is from Microsoft. All right, this is also from Microsoft Access. This is part of the Office, Microsoft Office package. And Oracle is from Oracle, you know. And then we have the Cbase and the DB2. So if you know SQL, if you know this standard, you can basically work with all these databases. All right, now what I want us to pay attention to is the syntax. All right, so this, we have a table, they have a table here. All right, and if you want to get everything from this table, you'll have to use what we call a syntax. All right, so a syntax is basically a function. I would say it's a function, right? The select will select everything. All right, so if you say select all right, from customers, is going to select everything from customers. All right, so we have the select. All right, the select statement handler, right? And the syntax is basically, you say select, that you name, you put a column name. All right, or you can say select all right, from then the name of the database. We're going to be using this a lot. All right, we also have the insert into. This is when you want to post into the database. All right, so basically you go like insert into, then you call the name of the database. All right, then you say values, then you type in the values. All right, and then we also have update is like when you already have data in the database and you want to change couple of columns, right? So you say update, then the name of the database, then you use the set. All right, I hope you can just find some time and go through the syntax. All right, because we don't have much time here, but we're going to be using the ones that we're going to be using a lot. So before we even finish this course, you would have learned a lot. All right, you would be learning a lot about how to use these syntaxes, right? All right, so I don't think I have to go through all these things with you. It's like I'm teaching you SQL. Now I'm not teaching you SQL. I'm teaching you how to use the important syntaxes. All right, to deal with your database. So let me not make this lecture that long, and I will see you on the next lecture. Thank you very much.